Good morning, guys. This is Garrett A3 Customs. Today we are working on a G-Wagon. This is a rare G-Wagon. It is a two-door. It's made by Mercedes. So this one was brought from overseas. It has some rust in it. So the customer started cutting out some of the rust that was in the hood. There's some pinholes in here. I didn't see this piece at all. He cut this out, and then he wanted us to make this piece. And then in further observations on the car, there's some more rust around the windows and some other stuff. It's not terrible, but if we don't get a handle on it, it will become a nightmare. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna make this piece, and I'm gonna show y'all guys how to make these bends and angles and put this back in here. I do not have the piece. It was cut out, and so I just gotta make it from the air, but we're gonna show you how to do it. I've kind of already prepped the surface around here where we're going to weld to it, but I'm going to go over and take a piece of flat sheet metal. I've already cut it out of a big sheet, so y'all didn't have to be seeing me fight the big sheet, because obviously that was funny. So I didn't want to show y'all that, but I got it out of a big sheet, and I've got a piece that's 30 inches. I've already measured from inside to inside, and it's 30 inches, and I'm going to cut it 3.5. It's actually 2.5, but time I make my bends, it's going to shrink some. So anytime you bend metal, metal shrinks. If you stretch metal, if you bend it the other direction, it'll stretch it. So you just want to make sure that when you're bending metal, you always give enough surface area for your radiuses and bends, because it will shrink and it will expand. So you can make metal, manipulate it however by the bends and how you stretch it. So it's 30 inches. He's cut it 30 inches. I don't know if that was just luck or if he hit it just spot on. Probably he measured it, but I mean, it is perfectly 30 inches. So it looks like he did a pretty good job of cutting them out square, cutting the corners. Looks a lot better than a lot of stuff we do get. But follow along with us, guys. I'm gonna go over here at the shear. I'm gonna shear this piece of metal off. I'm gonna make these 3 radiuses, come back over here, tack this thing in, and then do some body work and get this thing figured up. And then we're gonna probably look around the windows and see what we find there on a later video. But right now, we're gonna finish this hood, try to get this thing knocked out. Follow along with us, sir. All right, guys, we're at the shear right now. What I'm doing now is I'm gonna find my length. This panel here is actually 32. This shear will only cut I think 36 to 38 inch stuff. It is a small shear for what we're doing. We're just doing little pieces, body panels, this and that. I don't need an 8-foot shear, 4-foot shear to do this. It's not manufacturing. We just need something to actually be able to cut and bend metal. This thing is old, found it in the mountains. Got it down here, oiled it up. It works fine for what we need. So our measurement, the length was 30. And so this panel is 32.5. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shear it off. The distance, if I took my tape and I went around the hood like that, and I know this ain't accurate, but if we went around the hood like this, I give myself a little more room. So I went around the hood and it was 2.5, close to 2.5, but I figured time I bend it, I'm gonna use a little more. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this like 3.25 thick. So I'm gonna mark it 3.25 on both ends. I'm gonna shear it off so I got a smaller piece to work with, so it's easier manipulated versus me trying to fight this big piece of panel. So what we'll do is we're gonna mark it. I will tell you guys, anytime you're doing this at home, you're using any kind of metal forming, anything, wear gloves. Man, there's so many times that I'll just go over and get in a hurry and grab something, and I cut my hands open and they hurt for days. So honestly, guys, you need to wear gloves. That's a good thing. DeWalt makes good sets, Carlisle makes a good set. You know how to mismatch because we can't find half of them. They're all tore up. It happens over here in the metal fab. So anybody that knows my pain knows my pain. So we're 32, about 32.25 there. I've already squared this edge off. I cut this with a plasma. Down through there, I just ripped the center of it out of a big sheet, and I cut it with a plasma. And then, so now I've got it to where I can fit it actually in my shear. So basically, I'm gonna come up here. I'm gonna mark big line on 3.5. Of course, that's not gonna be Big line on 3.5. I'm gonna turn it around. This shear has a squared edge right here. It has a stop, so you can actually put it on here. So you can actually run it through 3.5. And so what I'm gonna do here first, so I'm gonna show you guys, I'm actually running this shear backwards, kind of in reverse. How this little shear works, it's got 2 feet that sit off, and you lay your stock down here with a roller, and you can pull it through. Once you get your line out here on the edge, you shear it off, and you take your piece off the front. A lot of guys think this thing is made to shear off that. You can do it in the front and the back. But the way it is a stomp shear. So if you got a big piece sitting out in the front, you can't stomp it. So I am running it in reverse. So I understand that that's kind of not how it's supposed to be done. But I just don't have the feet set up because I don't have the room, and I don't put big sheets on it. So we just try to use smaller sheets. This sheet here's really too big for what we're trying to do. I mean, it's too big for what I'm really trying to work with at the moment. But you know, we have to make it work with what we have to make it work. But what I do is I put it against the square. There's a stop there, and I can see my line I made right here, and I kind of put one over here, make sure I'm squared off. All right, and then I can actually bring my blade in. I can see my cutting edge. And even though that I'm, and see, you don't have the foot room to jump up on it and shear it unless it was off the back. But I got the pet feet for it, I just don't have the room for it to be just hanging out in the middle of the floor. Plus it's a safety thing. When people's walking by, we're already crowded in the metal shop already. But there we go. We'll put that back in the rack. And now we have a small piece we can work with. Now, the measurements get better and better and better as we go. So now we're almost at 4. So we want to take it down to 3. Let's do 3 1/4. That way when we start bending the top 2, do 3 1/4. 3 1/4. Now if you notice, I went ahead and marked my other side because this end here is all messed up when I cut it. I didn't cut it straight. I just cut it with a plasma. One-handed, it's kind of hard to hold. I got clamps on one end, but when you got a 4 foot, square on there, this end kind of flops. You just don't have room to do it unless you're just in a big production. So I try to buy it and have them when I get them in 4 foot pieces, like a 4x8 piece, and then I have it cut in half. That way we can manhandle it in here. We do have a crane system. We can move it. We do have the clamps and all that to move them, but it's a lot of aggravation to move it from the door back into the rack and then all over. But this is not squared off. Plus it's not 30 inches exactly. It's 32 at the end. So I just want to give myself a little room. We're going to square it off. We're going to make this piece. Then we're going to go bend it. So that's what I did. I flipped it on the other side so I can get me a nice squared edge. That's a nice factory squared edge. And that's a nice factory squared edge now that we cut it square with the machine. And so now I'll just lay it in there. Pull my shear up like that. And to check against what you have, you can do it just like this. So now, because I marked it, I can still check my blade. All right, so if I want it 3, to me that's 3 1/4. We're gonna make it 3 1/8. That way I have less material to cut off. And then when you get it there, you just hold it with that. And then this piece, it comes down. That actually holds it down, okay? You don't really need that if it's thick enough. Thin stuff, it's kind of different, but you do need that to hold that down. With this thin stuff, obviously, it's not, I'm not heavy enough. And ain't nobody can say they ain't got no shop humor when stuff like that happens. You think it's gonna work, and it's like, wait a minute. So, all right, guys, that happens. So now, back to being serious. We are, after I cut it at 3 1/8, and I took my measurement off of it, we are at 3 1/16. So you got to take the width of the blade. Shear it right off straight. All right. Now, come back over to our we're going to mark it 30. There. We're going to stick it in there at 30. On the square side. Guys, when you get old, you got to have glasses. And I do have them. It's kind of hard to see either way. Bam, that's how you're supposed to do it. But you got a big piece, it don't work as good. All right, so there's my piece, theoretically. Now, so we went from an 8-foot piece to a 4-foot piece, from a 4-foot piece to a 3-foot piece, from 3-foot piece, 30 inches, 3 1/2. Now it's 3 and 30. So now this piece should fit that long ways, the length. So then we can make our bend lines. We'll go over here and show you how to make these bend lines off the corner. If you have the panel that you want to work with, it's always good if you have the panel to work with, it's always good to work with. Look at that. Look at the fitment on that. Plenty to weld to. Nice squared edges. So now, you got to get the bend lines. All right, and so we're going to do a bend line here. All right, somebody left my pen open, and that thing is nice and crispy. All right, there's a bend line. There's a bend line. Let me get a pen that works. And now that we got a pen that works, maybe it might work. Of course it probably will work. All right. So we'll set that in there like that, which is pretty square. I mean, it looks pretty good. And like what he did, I don't know how he cut this out, but I'm telling you guys, if you take your time and you cut your squared edges nice, and it don't look like this, you actually put a square on it and do that, man, it's so much easier when you go to put these panels back in here. It's not hard to do, but I'm telling you, if you don't take, I mean, in a grinder, clean the edge up real nice, make it nice like it is, then you're fine. But if you don't, I mean, you're gonna fight gaps, and you're gonna be welding it crazy. It's just gonna be a nightmare. And so, there's one bend line there. Here's one bend line there. All right, and so now, take this and do like that. Make it to your bend line, right? And drop your cap. And then go under right here. All right. Same type with this. Go under there. Okay. Pick your cap up. Your paint marker will dry out, and then you have a mess. Okay. So now that you have your bend lines, you can call this. You can do this. I mean, you should know what you got, but a lot of times, us old guys will fit it, and in time we get to the machine, our mind has done forgot which way we're bending it. So you can put an arrow on it up, and you can put top, middle, bottom, however you want to write it down to remember it. The young guys don't really have this problem a lot, but when you get old, you're like, hey, you get over here and you're like, man, and then you're like, oh, how do I bend it? Then you gotta walk back to the car. So usually write this down, you'll be good to go. All right. So now, I just want to check my measurement here. We're 1.5 and 3/4. 1.5, 3/4. Okay, so let's go over to the bender and let's make this piece. So now we're over here at the tinsmith. Now listen, I never thought I'd use this thing so much. I thought it was a little big, overkill. I got rid of 2 machines to get this thing here. And so anybody that does metal work knows this thing here is amazing to do small stuff, to make things like we're making. But you gotta know which way to bend this. So you gotta kind of have it in your mind. If you come over here and just start bending, you're like, oh, I bent it the wrong way and I can't turn it over because now my sizes are wrong and I don't really know. So basically we're gonna bend this in reverse, because if we want it to sit up there and this to come up over the hood, come down and come under, if we bend it this way up, that means I just bent this the opposite direction. So we kind of want to turn this over and bend it like it's going to be on the car. That way, as this piece bends under here, this piece is the last piece. When you raise this a bend plate up, you can actually slide it out and then you have a piece formed. Then you can trim and shear off what you need underneath and make it, you know, with a small throat shear. And I can show you all that too. But right now, what I'm trying to do is I don't want to bend this thing in the wrong direction. So if I put this in there, like this, theoretically, and I bend this thing on my line, and I pull up and bend this, I just bent that the wrong way. And so now I've got to go back and start all over. And anybody that does that knows it's a headache. So, where's my pen? Old man syndrome. Have to go get your pen because you forget. And now you're walking back to the machine. Time is money, and I forget. So, when you're old, you forget things. There's one thing that happens. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to transfer my lines. Okay? And I know somebody's going to say something about this. Why didn't you just measure the other side? Well, I couldn't, because I had to measure it off the face, because I laid it on the face. But, and there's probably 50 different ways to make this piece. I mean, if I wasn't videoing this thing, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, tops. But, with me trying to show y'all guys what we're doing, here. So now, what did I say my first measurement was? See, there it goes again. 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches. Let me go check it one more time. See, the old man syndrome again. Yep, 1.5 inches. See where you wear gloves? That'd have been easily a finger. Probably wouldn't hurt. All right, so I'm gonna come out here 1.5 inches. Let me add it. All right. 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches. Well, let's make sure. Double check it. 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches. And if you're square here and you're square there in the middle in this line square, it's gonna be square all the way across. So drop it here. Drop the plate there. Lock it. Guess what? We should have 1.5 inches across the board. There's 1.5 inches. There's 1.5 inches. Now, when I bend this, you gotta know how much radius to put on. That's a whole nother measurement, okay? So, I do a guesstimation radius. Not technical, but it is good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bend this up. And I'm gonna see how good I am right off the bat. All right? Probably just a touch big. All right, and so now the next measurement is a 100 complete fold. See, again, get your hands caught. And so I'm measuring from there to that, and you're not 3/4 of the plate yet. 3/4. So to the radius of that bend to that right there is 3/4 is what we're looking for. And that will give you your lip. A little bit in. Okay. We'll do the same thing over here. There we go. All right. All right. So now this lip curves under flat like a 90. So we're gonna have to bend this lip differently, okay? But as I bend on this, this shrinks. See, it's a 90. Now, that doesn't look like that piece by the eyeball right now. I do not believe. But we'll go fit it and we'll see if we got this angle right or not. But that should be pretty close. Look at there, guys. Look how close it is over here on this side. And so we're a little bit tight right here. high. Look at this side over here. This side over there. Just like the radius. And then you can put that in, metal finish that thing off, and go from there. So this thing is pretty straightforward. And then up and under here, you can see how wide that lip is here. And that lip's almost the same width. See that? So once we're done, you'll never see it. It'll look like it was made for it, forever and ever. And so there, guys, is how you make it. And I ain't gonna bore you. We're gonna weld it in. We're gonna fit it, weld it in. This side, of course, you know, we'll have to twist it a little bit as we put it in. But same sheet metal, that, same size. We'll actually put it in right there, tack it up, weld it up, tack it up, weld it up across here, grind it, metal finish it off, and it's good to go. And that's how you make a body panel from a piece of flat steel for a G-Wagon. Thank you.